Progressivism seeks to replace the basic premises of the Declaration of Independence, and hence our form of government. It holds that our rights and our dignities come not from God, but from government. You will not be surprised to learn that the progressives had a great deal of contempt for us, the American people.
Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas in remarks to the University of Texas, Austin, marking the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, warning about progressivism. It's time now to talk about it with our Sunday group. Francesca Chambers, USA Today White House correspondent. Reince Priebus, Fox News political analyst. Sarah Isker-Scotus, expert and the author of the new book, The Last Branch Standing. And Democratic campaign strategist Kevin Walling. Okay, good to see all of you. And Sarah, congrats on your new book. I think we'll take the first question to you on this. He said basically a lot of what's being promoted as part of American society, the more progressive wing of the Democratic Party, is just simply inconsistent with the foundational principles of this country.
He's right. We're at the end of a 100-year failed experiment. He's talking about the progressive era, back to Wilson and Teddy Roosevelt, and this idea that instead of having representative government through Congress, that we should replace Congress with experts in the executive branch. And I think we've seen how that's gone. Congress doesn't do anything. We're in government by executive order. And it's why the Supreme Court is the focus of so much of our partisan angst. They weren't supposed to be the last word. But we don't feel like Congress will then pass a statute after they rule, or that we can ratify an amendment. And this is a failure. It's why the Supreme Court is the last branch standing, because the other two aren't doing their jobs.
Well, a lot of folks feel that way, and the court gets saddled with all kinds of conversations and disputes maybe that were not the founders' intention. But one of the progressives that the right likes to point most to is New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani. Here's what he said this week.
When I ran for mayor, I said I was going to tax the rich. Well, today, we're taxing the rich. I believe everyone has a role to play in contributing to our city, and some a little bit more than others.
Reince, he's telling the rich people they're not given enough.
Well, this is populism of the left. It's middle finger politics. It's what's working in America. It's why politics permeates everything. Because like I've said so many times, division is profit. And as long as you're dividing, you're rating. And so if you treat investment like a problem, you're going to run out of money. And when in New York City, the top 10% pay 75% of all the income into New York. But this works. This is sort of like where the far left meets the far right, and it's really what drives the success in the Democrat Party.
Well, he's had success. He's very popular, especially with younger voters. They really showed up in force for him. But here's the New York Post talking about what he also launched this week with these city-owned grocery stores. They say Mamdani's $30 million city-owned grocery store will cost 4 times the normal price to build and lose $300,000 a year in perpetuity. Kevin, that's according to the experts.
It's according to the experts. You know, he's marking 100 days in office. It seems like he's been everywhere, on potholes, on blogs, on podcasts. I come from the center left of my party. I'm a pragmatist over ideology. I think that's generally what is going to be rewarded come the midterms in November. We're also seeing folks move with their feet based on some of these policies. I come from South Carolina. We got a huge population growth there because of some of these policies in these big cities. I'm always going to be that bulwark against that far left in my party.
Okay, so as Justice Thomas warns against that far left, I want to get back to some Supreme Court insider stuff, because this week, Justice Sotomayor, she had an apology that she issued after saying this about Justice Kavanaugh. She was critiquing one of his opinions, saying this is from a man whose parents were professionals and probably doesn't really know any person who works by the hour. She later put out this apology saying, I made remarks that were inappropriate. I regret my hurtful comments. I have apologized to my colleague. It is no surprise, Francesca, that there are tensions over there at the court. They don't always become public, though.
I think there is, as Sarah was saying, a lot of focus on the Supreme Court right now that maybe we haven't seen in this way in the past, because when President Trump puts these executive orders into practice, it is the Supreme Court where a lot of these are landing. So there's this unusual focus on members of the Supreme Court. We also heard this week that there was potential for a couple justices to maybe step down. The president suggesting that he could appoint 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 more additional people. Then we heard that Clarence Thomas as well as Samuel Alito are currently staying put for now. One thing to me, Sarah, that's been really interesting about that conversation is they're not the ones who've been ruling against President Trump in the first place when it comes to this. So even if they did, Shannon, it wouldn't help Republicans in the short term, although potentially in the long term if a Democrat gets elected after President Trump.
Yeah, I'm told that they are staying put for now. I'm assured that that is their plan for this year. But I want to get back to the New York Times yesterday had a piece that did a deep dive and exposed a lot of internal documents and memos within the court about this so-called interim docket where decisions are made in the short term, but the left on the court is very upset about it, saying it is giving President Trump wins. It's deciding things without getting to the merits. Sarah, what do you make of this exposure of this really private communication from the court? I know the chief cannot be happy.
Not happy. These are very big leaks coming from the court. Yes, they're from 2016, so they're 10 years old, but nevertheless, these are private papers between the justices. That being said, the narrative that the New York Times talked about is simply incorrect. They called this the birth of the shadow docket during Obama's Clean Power Plan case, and that before that it had only been used for death penalty or election cases. That's just false. When Texas 2 years earlier passed its anti-abortion laws, the Supreme Court used the interim docket, the shadow docket, to block those laws from going into effect while the case was pending through the courts. The left was very happy with the interim docket at that point. President Trump, yes, has won quite a bit on that docket, but not if you consider all the times they haven't appealed to the Supreme Court. That denominator matters. So 80% he's won at the Supreme Court. His overall number's closer to 20%, though, if you include the cases he took the L on.
Well, I always want to know about the leaks, how this happens. We're going to dig on that part of it as well.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.